And welcome to God damn it, the spoilerCast. The show we talk about movies and we don't care about spoiling them because it is, in fact, the spoilerCast. And in today's episode, we are kind of preparing. I don't know, preparing for one of the movies that I've been looking forward to this year, and I guess you too as well.
Yeah, since you showed me the trailer at least.
Yeah. Because, it's already been out in a bunch of countries, but this Friday, Last Night in Soho is premiering here in Sweden. Well, tomorrow from the day when we're recording this and uploading it. So we thought we should take a look at Edgar Wright's earlier works, since, I've been a fan since 2004, and I don't know when you became a fan, probably around the same time?
Probably.
Yeah. Around the time Shaun of the Dead came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually double checking now to see how many of his movies I've actually seen.
Well, I think you've seen all of them. He hasn't done that many.
Not all of them.
Well, he did Shaun of the Dead,
Yeah.
Hot Fuzz, then he did Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
All right.
Then he did The World's End, and then he did Baby Driver. That's it. And then Last Night in Soho. Before that, he just did some TV.
TV, yeah. And I have seen
Spaced.
Yeah, so I've seen one of those.
Yeah.
He did actually do a movie before all that.
Yes, but it's one of those. It's like saying that I've made a movie. I have technically made a movie, but it was never released. And I think his only showed at like local film festivals or something like that. He made it when he was a kid. So
okay, so maybe I have seen all of his movies. Yeah, then, technically.
That movie is available on I think it's available on the 2-disc DVD of Hot Fuzz, which I have somewhere. I have them on Blu-ray now, but I still own the 2-disc somewhere. I think our parents have it maybe, and I think it's on there, or at least some scenes of it are on there. But whatever.
Cool.
Yes. Well, today we are talking about the Cornetto Trilogy.
Yes.
And then we're gonna watch Last Night in Soho tomorrow. And then this Monday, for the Patreon episode, we're going to talk about, I'm guessing, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Baby Driver, Spaced, the rest of Edgar Wright's works in general.
Yes.
And then next Thursday, unfortunately, with bad timing or whatever, we're talking about Last Night in Soho.
Unless you want us to talk about it on Patreon, but then people have to pay for it.
Yeah, sure. Well, we're gonna mention it on Patreon. Yeah. So if you want our early opinions, you can get them on Monday for just $3 a month.
Depending on when we record it as well, it might be early on Patreon. We'll see.
Well, yeah, it's gonna be on. Oh, you mean the actual episode? Oh, yeah, that might be.
Depending on when we record it. No promises.
Of course. So yeah, if you want that, please check us out on Patreon.
Yep.
But
what you forgot?
No. Well, yeah, introducing us. But it's me, Tobias. It's my sister and trusted co-host Rebecca.
Hello. Welcome.
And, welcome to the show. And we're going to try to... We've done this before where we talk about a bunch of movies and we go on for way too long.
Yes.
So we're going to try to keep this to, about 20-25 minutes per movie. Because there's so much to talk about in these movies.
Oh, yes.
We could go on for hours. So we're going to try to keep it...
Most likely, yes.
Yeah, up to about an hour,
And considering all of them have been out for at least almost 10 years now... We should be okay with spoiling everything.
Oh yes. We are, however, gonna discuss that spoilers for the third one at The World's End and how that kind of ruined my experience with the movie.
Oh right.
But we'll get to that. First, First of all, Shaun of the Dead.
Yes.
Do you remember the first time you watched it?
No.
Okay. Because for me,
I've seen it so many times since.
Me too.
I do not remember my first experience.
Well, for me, this was such a monumentous movie. Like it's still one of my favorite movies of all time. And it came out at the perfect time. It came out in 2004. And I know I watched it on DVD for the first time. And I'm pretty sure it came out in 2004, 2005 here in Sweden. So it was in the height of like modern zombie movies, and also in the height of my interest of zombie movies, because I had become friends with Martin. If you've listened to this podcast, you've heard Martin's voice here and there, and he's also on the commentary tracks, which you can get on Patreon as well. He introduced me to zombie movies just a few years earlier when we first met each other. So my interest in zombie movies was at a peak around 2004 because, just a few months earlier we got Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead.
Shaun of the Dead? Sure.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead. So it was zombies were all over the place. And I remember specifically going over to their house, Martin and his brother Robin, my two best friends. And because we have said this before also, we live just across the street from them. So
literally a stone's
literally across the street. It's 15 feet between our front doors. So I walk over, knock on the door, their mom or whoever opens, and I walk into Robin's room where both of them and a bunch of friends are huddled around the TV and they're watching a zombie movie. And it, like half an hour had gone by. And I was like, what is this? Oh, it's this movie called Shaun of the Dead. And I looked at the DVD cover, and my first thought was, this looks terrible. Because I thought it was just going to be like a cheap, like a scary movie kind of movie where they're making fun of zombie movies and Dawn of the Dead because of the name and everything.
Yeah.
But I sat down, watched the rest of the movie that was left, and I fucking loved it. I think I watched the whole movie the day after. And I like I said, I've been a fan ever since.
Yeah.
Do you remember what you thought the first time you saw it?
No, but I do remember thinking just like you did that it's gonna be like a parody of zombie movies. But I mean, I must have liked it because I kept watching it, and I like it now. So
yeah, yeah, because I don't know where to start.
Yeah,
with what makes it so good. Well, first of all, you know what is that makes it so special, so good. It is Edgar Wright and his
definitely
meticulous
his style.
directing. Yeah, his style, his directing, his writing. And they have an editor, but the director always sits in on the editing. Like, he is so like I said, meticulous when he makes a movie that every scene feels like it's directed down to like the last like millisecond and millimeter of film is so precisely directed. And for some directors, you can see that in certain scenes that they like put a lot of effort in some scenes, but then it's a dialogue scene. It's gonna be a regular 2-shot or whatever, close up, back and forth. But no, every scene in Shaun of the Dead is like handcrafted. Every scene has a purpose.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah,
every scene has a purpose and it's well thought out. And even though it's sometimes he's repeating patterns, it makes sense.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we're gonna get to that when we talk about the rest of the movies. How there's repeating patterns, but that's also because this is an unofficial trilogy. It's supposed to be. They're supposed to be similar in style and feeling and
No, but I'm
format.
thinking within Shaun of the Dead as well.
Sure, yeah.
Repetitive ideas and ways of showing things, but it makes sense because there's a reason for it.
Yeah, it is. That's also a thing. Like, it's very well structured, and it's structured like a well-told joke.
Yes.
You have the setup. You have the payoff, and you even have callbacks later in the movie. And it is a comedy, so not only are there jokes in the movie is structured as a well-structured joke. It is just so goddamn good. And
and it's even more elevated by the fact that there's only, as far as I think, great actors in it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, is there something I don't like about the movie? And
not really.
Not really. There is one scene where we haven't even gone into the story yet, but whatever. There's one scene where Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are sitting on their couch. It's just after the zombie stuff has started. And they realize that they forgot to lock the door, which is another running joke in the beginning of the movie. And a one-armed bridegroom walks into their living room, and they both go, "Whoa!" and stand up. If you look at Simon Pegg, he is so close to laughing in that scene. He literally goes, "Whoa!" He looks so goofy.
Yeah.
It looks so ridiculous. And the movie never, the scares, just like the jokes are like sincere. It's just like it's a real comedy. It's not like, I don't know. The jokes are sincere. You know what I mean? There are good jokes, well-made jokes. But when the movie needs to be serious, it is serious, and the scares are scary. I mean, some of the scares are funny because it's a comedy, but when the movie needs to be scary, it is scary. That scene, however, does not work because he just goes woo with his face. That's it. I think. There might be one other thing, but that's it. And that is such a small nitpick.
It might also work, to be honest, because Nick Frost's character is very unserious in general. So even though he was like
no, it's Simon. Oh, did I say it's Simon Pegg who does it?
Oh yeah, no, sorry.
Yeah, Nick Frost.
Oh wait, it is?
Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
He goes, "Whoa!" with his the jazz hands.
Well, he kind of does. Yeah, that's true. I guess.
And other than that, there are no bad performances. There are no,
not really.
no bad lines of dialogue. We'll get to the dialogue later. There is nothing. It is 99.9% perfection. Like, it is so as close to a perfect movie as you can get.
I guess, actually.
I mentioned on Twitter, there was like a poll or something on Twitter a while back, between, I don't know, even remember which movies there were, but one of the choices were Edge of Tomorrow. And I wrote, Edge of Tomorrow comes so close to being a perfect movie if it wasn't for that, shitty ending.
Right.
And that's true. I really love that movie, but the ending really not ruins the movie, but it ruins it from being a perfect movie. Here, it's literally half a second that ruins it from being a perfect movie.
Yeah.
I mean, there are no plot holes, even though they make a thing of that on the DVD. Like, they have not really plot holes, but what happens to characters when they disappear in the movie. Even though that's not really a plot hole.
No, that's not a plot hole.
Yeah. Yeah, I keep saying it. There is nothing wrong with this movie. There's nothing you can point out like, nah, this is bad. This is bad. No.
The only thing I could say that might be a dislike for me is that some of the characters, the way they are written, I don't like them as characters. There's nothing wrong with how they're portrayed or actually played. It's just not my kind of person to hang out with.
Which one are you referring to?
Most of them, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
If I met them in real life, I would probably hate them. But in the movie, they work. And to be honest, they're written very, very English.
Yes, this is a very British movie.
Yes.
Without like, not like trying to be like an American movie trying to be British. This is
no. This is British, made by British.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't make sense, but we you can definitely tell when a movie is Swedish.
Oh yes,
we can because we're from Sweden, and this you can definitely tell it's a English movie. It's a British movie. Yeah.
Which is also a perk actually, because a lot of times you have English movies where too many Americans are involved, and it doesn't really make it English anymore.
It wants to be more international feeling.
Yeah.
So it has an more international appeal. No, this is very British.
This is very British.
This is like Fawlty Towers British.
Yeah.
Especially if we're talking comedy. And I don't know, some other British stuff.
Black Books, I suppose.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Speaking
of good actors.
speaking of people in this movie.
Yeah.
Should we go through the plot? Well, the plot isn't really that hard. It's about Shaun, a 29-year-old, I don't know, deadbeat, Want to call him?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, he lives with his roommate Pete, his more successful roommate, which I don't understand why he still lives with Shaun since he has a real
Because
job and everything.
rent is very steep in London.
I guess.
And as far as I understand, they're actually in the city of London.
I think it's supposed to be a
The
suburb.
outskirts, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not it's definitely, adjacent to London, but I don't think it's not in London because they're living in like a townhouse.
Yeah, but that exists.
I guess it does. I don't know. I've only been in London once. Yeah, once. Either way, yeah, I guess that's why.
I mean, yeah, and he's obviously not like he's overworked, so maybe he's not getting paid a lot
Yeah, maybe.
because he has to take extra hours and shit. So
yeah, and there's our first. It's not really a cameo because he's in the movie for a substantial amount of time, but it's Peter Serafinowicz.
Yes.
Known, of course, from Spaced, but also as the voice of Darth Maul in Star Wars Episode 1, which is kind of funny when you think of Simon Pegg, Edgar Wright, and Spaced, and their relationship to Star Wars, especially the prequels. It's kind of funny. But then he technically also lives there, does Ed, played by Nick Frost.
Yes.
He doesn't pay rent, he just hangs out there.
He's just there.
Yeah, but like Pete said, he came over one night, they drank apple schnapps and played Tekken 2, but that was 5 years ago. When is he going home? He never left. Yeah, when is he going home? So he just hangs out there because he's Shaun's best friend.
And he obviously has nothing to do. He's unemployed.
Yeah, he's unemployed.
And,
he brings in a little bit of money,
food.
Though. Yeah, by dealing drugs.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Sure. Not sure how much of that money
he doesn't,
Shaun and...
Yeah, I don't think that goes towards the household.
No.
But
maybe beer.
Yeah, maybe beer. But anyway, so he's going nowhere in life, and that is why the movie more or less opens with him being dumped by his girlfriend. I mean, technically, he's dumped in the second scene they're together, but the movie opens with them hanging out at the pub. It's last call, which means it's around 2:30 at night. And they talk about how she wants to move on. She wants to bring him with her, of course, but she wants him to want to do it too, not just do it because she wants to. And he's like, sure, yeah, things are gonna change, but nothing will.
And he's been saying that for years, obviously.
Yeah.
And tell by the look on her face.
Yeah. So she dumps him after a second fight later, like a little bit into the movie. But as luck would have it, a zombie infestation breaks out in London. And he sees this not as an opportunity to get her back, but he still loves her, so he has to save her and his friends. And it's about them going from Shaun's house to the pub. Where else?
Yeah.
And where they're gonna hold up.
But you have a few detours on the way.
Yeah.
You have to pick up some people, they meet some people, they lose some people.
Yeah.
But they eventually do end up at the pub again.
Yeah. And that's one of the things, like, even in a crisis situation, his plan is pub? Because that's all he does. He wakes up, goes to work, hangs out at the pub, goes to bed, goes to work, hangs out at the pub.
The occasional video game session at home.
Sure.
But that's about it.
And that is the plot. But then that it's not really a lot of plot. It is much more character driven. It's about him growing up, basically. But at the same time, not really. It's just coming to terms with who he is.
Maybe not growing up, but realizing that this is how things are, and this is what things could be, I suppose.
Yeah.
That the tiniest of changes can make the largest of differences. That's not correct wording, but you know what I mean.
No, it makes sense. But along the way, then we have so many actors from other British comedies.
Yes.
A lot of people from Spaced, the show that Simon Pegg wrote with Edgar Wright, or I guess Simon Pegg wrote it with. What's her name? She has a small role in this. Yvonne. Jessica Stevenson.
Right.
They wrote Spaced. Edgar Wright directed it, and that's kind of where they became friends. They knew each other before, but that's where they became friends.
Yeah.
I don't know where I was going with that, but
well, you were talking about all the characters.
Oh yes, the characters
or the actors, I suppose.
Yeah, so we have Jessica Stevenson, who plays the second lead to Simon Pegg in Spaced. She shows up in a small role as Yvonne, who is basically Shaun's counterpart.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mirroring of their stories in this movie, though, when they actually meet. But then, like you said, you have Peter Serafinowicz, who plays I don't remember what he's called in Spaced, but he's like the arch nemesis in Spaced. And there's even a little nod to his character in Shaun of the Dead, because he gets a phone call.
Dwayne Benzie.
Oh, in Spaced, yeah.
Yeah,
and in Spaced, every time he's in a scene, he always gets a phone call and he says, "Dom, hi." And when he gets a phone call, when Pete gets a phone call, you can hear him in the background saying, "Dom, hi."
Yeah.
But then you have like Nick Frost, who also plays like a, I don't know what he's kind of not a doomsday prepper, but sort of like a gun nut prepper guy in Spaced. And then you have is there anyone else from Spaced? No, then we don't have any more from Spaced, but we do then have from Black Books. We have, of course, Dylan Moran, who plays David in this, which is kind of he's the twat in this movie. Nobody likes him.
No.
Barely even his girlfriend. And then also in a very, very small role, we have Tamsin Greig, who plays Fran in Black Books in this movie. We also have in the same scene, we also have Martin Freeman for like 3 seconds, who plays then Jessica Stevenson's boyfriend in this.
I think he only says hello.
He says hello, yeah. And in that scene, it's a scene where they all meet up, and you have Yvonne's has all the same character as Shaun has in his party, but it's not even reversed. Only some of the characters.
Some of them are gender swap, but that's about it.
And in that role, we also have what's his name? The short, bald, fat guy from Little Britain. Matt Lucas, or is that the other one? I think
so. I actually don't remember the name.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I can't find him either.
Which is kind of funny, because in Spaced, the other guy from Little Britain, the tall one, actually plays an avant-garde artist in one episode. So there's a lot of crossover in the movie. So if you like British comedy, like 90s and early 2000s British comedy, you'll see a lot of familiar faces.
You'll see a lot of familiar faces in all three of these movies, to be honest. Oh, yes. Because just looking through the cast list, it makes it even more obvious that, Matt Lucas, by the way.
Matt Lucas, yes.
Yeah. Like, most of these people are in one of the three movies twice. Wait, that doesn't make sense. 2 of the 3 movies, at least. And then they're also always in, most
not all
of them.
But...
Not all of them, but most of them.
Yeah.
They have, maybe a tiny role. Like, for example, Rafe Spall. He plays Noel in this one.
Yeah, he plays Noel, which is an annoying co-worker of Shaun's. Yeah, teenager.
But in Hot Fuzz, he's one of the Andys.
Yes. Wainwright.
Oh, I don't remember which one's which.
I think it's Andy Wainwright, yeah. Because it's Andy Wainwright and Andy Cartwright, the Andys.
Yeah.
And he has a small role in World's End as a house buyer.
Yeah.
Whatever.
In one scene.
Yeah. 2 scenes. We'll get to that.
All right.
Anyway, but so what makes the movie so, and that's another good thing, because this movie, just like Spaced, it is full of references to other zombie movies, specifically the Living Dead trilogy, George A. Romero's Living Dead trilogy, which we discussed earlier on in this podcast last year. Check out those
earlier
episodes.
This year? I think it was earlier this year. Actually.
Maybe it was, yeah, because we've only been on Spotify and everything. Yeah, earlier this year. Yeah, exactly.
I think I live in this apartment, actually.
Yeah, probably.
I've only been here a year.
Oh, sure. So and there's too many references to mention.
Yes.
Like the movie, when the first time you see Shaun, it's a reference to the opening of Day of the Dead when he walks. Oh, he's the zombie from the opening. And yeah, there's a lot of the music is actually used is from Dawn of the Dead.
I mean, obviously the name Shaun,
Shaun of the Dead, Dawn of the Dead, yeah. But then there's also there's reference to other horror movies. Not really. There's mostly zombie movie references.
Yes.
I mean, there are other. There's
there are horror movie tropes, obviously. But,
yeah.
like, most of them it's zombie related. That's the thing.
Oh yeah. But then what? So the thing is though that the references are never in the way. It never feels like, oh, they're just doing this to reference another movie. It's never like, oh, I know that, I gotta clap for it. It's never fan service, which reference to other movies can still be fan service. That it is not. This movie stands completely on its own because of the great writing and directing and acting.
Yes.
There's of course the most famous scene where they're sitting at the bar right after Shaun gets dumped. They're sitting at the bar talking about what they're gonna do tomorrow. They're just gonna keep drinking, as Ed says. I don't remember all the steps now, but it starts with, of course, Bloody Marys in the morning, which is then mirrored later when they kill a zombie called Mary by impaling her, so that she bleeds everywhere in Bloody Mary. Yeah. Then they're gonna have, what is it, a couple at the Little Princess, which is, of course, when they go to pick up Shaun's girlfriend, whatever her name is.
Diane? No.
Nope, that's her friend. Kate Ashfield plays her.
Liz,
right. And, of course, her two flatmates, David and Di, a couple at the Little Princess.
Yeah.
Or at the Princess, whatever.
Yeah.
Then when they go to pick up Shaun's mom, they're at King's Head to do something. I don't remember. Anyway, there's another step. Then they stagger back to the Winchester for shots, i.e., they act as zombies to get into the Winchester, where they use the gun to kill zombies.
The shotgun.
Yeah, well, it's a Winchester rifle.
It's a Winchester rifle, but it's a shotgun.
No, it's not. It's a rifle. It's a very different thing.
Oh, whatever. It looks like
that's a funny thing, though, because in the movie, Ed wants Shaun to call the bullets. He calls them bullets first. He says, "Oh, shells," which they are not. Because this is whatever. That's I'm pretty sure that is an in-joke. Because a shotgun uses shells. A rifle uses bullets.
True. Well, I always thought that the Winchester guns were like smaller ones. I didn't know they made big rifles as well.
A Winchester rifle is like one of the most iconic rifles of all time. Winchester rifle.
I just know of the Winchester pistol.
I don't think there are Winchester pistols.
They reference that in other series and movies, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Oh, whatever. Yeah.
We're obviously not gun nuts, so.
No, exactly. Yeah, but yeah. We like we said, we got to talk about more movies. We can't go into story specifics.
Like, Shaun of the Dead, it's a very simple movie, but like you said, it's very well thought out and meticulously planned and directed. So just watch it.
Yeah, and that like we said, that style never they never let go of that. It's not like, oh, whatever. This scene is just them walking. No, then a scene of them just walking is still full of. There are little sound effects, music, the editing, the dialogue when they're walking.
In the background.
Yeah, there's details everywhere in these movies.
Because even before we know that there's a zombie outbreak, we see military trucks passing behind them, people running the opposite direction, but you never see why. You have passing a TV and you see the news clips, but you never actually hear what they say or properly know what they're going to say.
Yeah.
So you have all these hints before it actually.
Or just a little thing. Not even the more famous one is his walk when he wakes up to go to work. There's this one long take where he walks across the street and down to the local shop to get a drink. And there's these steps, like he gives a homeless man money. He walks past the guy who's cleaning his car, and he trips on the curb. There's a man jogging past him, and later in the movie, that is they do that entire take again, but then everyone is zombies. But he's so stuck in a rut, they stuck in this suburban hell, that he doesn't even notice that the homeless guy is trying to grab him instead of asking for money. The jogger is now running for his life away from zombies. A bunch of those details. Lots of fun visual gags.
Stumbles next to has a hole in the windshield.
Yes, exactly. And there's blood all over the windshield.
Yeah.
But there's another one of those. There's a little one of my favorite like examples of one of those little details. We have a scene also where they're kind of foreshadowing the zombie apocalypse, because when he gets to work, he has to kind of take command, because not only is his boss homesick, but the next guy in line to take over, then Ash, which is of course a reference to Evil Dead, is also homesick, because
also all of Pete's coworkers are homesick, so he has to pick up extra shifts.
Exactly. That's why he is very angry when they play Electro in the middle of the night later on. But anyway, when he's at work, of course, he works in a electronic store. He sells TVs and radios and whatever.
Yeah.
Another reference thing. There's a whole thing about him talking about you can't take personal calls because it's not a social gathering. Then later he gets 2 social calls, or private calls. One from his stepdad and one from Liz. But when he's talking to Liz, he's trying to play it cool, like he's not getting a private call, just as he's having a discussion with Noel, Rafe's Ball, about not having personal calls at work. So he says, "Oh, it's just Liz from head office. Nothing to panic about." But he has to panic because they were talking about going to a restaurant, and he hasn't booked a table yet. He forgot to. So that's also kind of funny thing. Nothing to panic about, but he has to panic. He panics about it later. But also, directly after that, they cut to a man running down the street in a panic.
Yeah.
Literally the next second is a man running in a panic down the street, past the flower shop where Shaun is standing to buy flowers for his mom.
Yeah.
Little details like that all over the movie, which makes it so much fun to watch. But like I said, also, it's not like the details take over. There is a well-written story and well-written characters as well. It is just it is so good. But the best part is
that continues on into the next movie.
Yes, which we should get to right now, because we've done more than 20 minutes. Hot Fuzz, which came out 3 years later.
Yeah.
It is once again starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. And
his main characters,
yes, but this time they're not deadbeats; they are police officers.
Well, Nick Frost is he's kind of a deadbeat, even though he's actually a police officer. He's not the best one.
Sure, yeah. And this one is, of course, in the complete opposite this time. Simon Pegg plays like the best police officer in London. He's the super cop. Yeah. Which they reference later in the movie.
Is.
Because there's an actual movie called Super Cop in real life. Whatever. And he's so good at doing his job that he gets transferred out of London to a little village 150 miles outside of London called Sanford, Gloucestershire. Yeah.
He's 400% better than anyone else in the force, basically.
Yes, like he's making all the other cops look bad. That's why they send him away. They rank him up so he becomes sergeant, but he has to be sergeant away from London.
Yes. And
there he thinks, oh no, rural policing. This is gonna be fucking bore. He's used to real crime and stuff. He likes London. He's born and raised in London. Yeah.
Adventures, basically.
Yeah. But then people start dying in very strange accidents all around Sanford. So he and Danny, played by Nick Frost, police officer Danny.
PC Danny Butterman.
Yeah. Has to figure out, are they really accidents or are they murders?
Yes.
I don't know. Well, they are. Well, we'll get to that when we talk about that's the premise of the movie. I mean, we as an audience know that there are murders because we see the shadowy, the cloaked figure killing everyone. But here, once again, this is not as much like an homage to police movies in general, but action movies in general.
Yeah.
With a hint of horror movie. Because, of course, the cloaked murderer is very, like, almost slasher movie-like in kills
it's a
people.
slasher killer, yeah.
But it's mostly action movies. And just like in Shaun of the Dead, it is so meticulously directed and written. It is insane. Once again, written by Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright, and of course directed by Edgar Wright.
And it has, every scene has a purpose. It has even the tiniest of details have reason to be there.
If anything, I think this movie is even more flawless in that regard. Like, there is no fat to this movie.
No.
There's nothing you can cut out to, like, we need to trim it down, this is too long. No. Nothing.
No.
Everything is a reference to either something that has happened or is going to happen, and it has a purpose in the movie.
Yes.
It is insane.
Everything can be explained.
Yes. It is.
Everything is eventually explained very thoroughly.
I mean, even down to a joke that, oh no, they have to do menial tasks as police officers in this little town. Like, one of the first crimes they have to figure, one of the first calls they go on is that there is a swan missing from the local castle, and you know, they have to try to find this swan, which they can't. However, that swan,
they find it, but they can't catch it.
Yeah, they can't find it, but they can't catch it. Eventually they do, but that's towards the end.
Yeah.
Throughout the movie, that swan comes into play over and over until it literally stops the main bad guy in the end. It's Chekhov's swan instead of Chekhov's gun.
Yeah.
And there are so many details like that in the movie.
I think this one has even more than Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah, because it's a little longer. So it has just more of it. And I will, however, say a lot of people have said that Hot Fuzz is more meticulous, more detailed, and more flawless than Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, there is one scene in the movie which I only thought of this time. I rewatched it yesterday. That actually, I actually started questioning, like, wait, why is this happening? Not why is it happening, but why is it happening this way? And it is the scene towards the end when he thinks he has figured it out, and he goes back into the chief's office. I don't know, police chief's office.
Yeah.
And says there are multiple killers. He's like, oh, you're overthinking this. Why don't you just go home? And it's like the low point of the movie. But as he goes home or goes to the hotel where he's living, which is also a running joke that, you know, he is promised a lovely little cottage because, you know, all the policemen get their own cottage in the village. But it's not done yet, so he has to live in. Just like before in the movie when he's living in the house where all the police cadets are living, while they're going through the academy, he's living there as well. And then he has to do the same thing. Oh, whatever. That's
whatever.
Thing. Yeah. He gets dragged in to his hotel room because he notices the door is open. So he gets dragged in by the cloaked figure, who starts to, you know, try to beat him to death. He managed to pull off the cloak, see that it is Michael Armstrong, like the big heavy in the movie.
Do they call him Lurch?
Lurch, yes, because he has a child's mind. He says yarp and narp. That's
apparently.
Yeah. And we have seen he's right that there are multiple killers because the cloaked killer is one of a lot of people in the movie. Too many to mention. And And they all always use, weapons to kill people. They use an axe to behead a couple of people in the beginning. They use, I guess, a part of the church roof is not really a weapon, but, to kill another guy. They use garden shears to kill a woman. And
explosion,
yeah, and a lead pipe to beat the guy first. Before they blow him up. But in this scene, when Lurch, Michael Armstrong, pulls him in, he starts beating him with his fists. But then later in the scene, pulls out the knife when he can't beat him. Why didn't he just use the knife? I mean, I get it for in the screenplay, it's so that Simon Pegg's character can survive, can beat him. But I mean,
Angel?
Yeah, Nicholas Angel. Nicolars Angel.
Nicolars.
As they call him.
Angle.
Yeah. More Angle. Yeah. But I mean, in the movie, why wouldn't he just stab him the second he sees him?
Because he has a child's mind. He doesn't think of that, probably.
Okay, that's
just an explanation.
That's an explanation, I guess. But that's not the reason. And the same thing also because at that moment in the movie we don't know it, but the people who own the hotel are in on the murders.
Yeah.
Like all of the town elders are in on it. That's basically the whole thing. And we'll get to why that, that's another reference to a very British thing. But we'll get to that. So why does he have to wear the cloak and pull him into the room to kill him? Why not just burst out of the door and stab him? I mean, once again, for plot convenience, that it's there, but it does ruin. Yeah, because on repeat viewings, it doesn't make sense why they don't just stab him right there in the hallway.
No, that's true.
But that's the only thing, really. So
I guess if he would survive it, they didn't want to risk him knowing. Like, actually knowing. I mean, he's figured it out, but he's not 100% sure until he can point at it, I guess. So maybe it's a precaution in case he gets away? I mean, he does, though, so they fail either way, but...
Yeah.
I don't know. Why do any killers hide who they are if they're gonna kill people?
Yeah,
because the person's gonna die.
No. If there are witnesses, that's why.
Yeah,
but here he is in a place where he knows the only witnesses are in on it. So.
Yeah, the same thing with when Martin Blower and Eve Draper gets murdered. They're in a closed room. There's only those two people in there.
I guess.
Why do you have to be masked then? So I think it's only just to keep the illusion up.
Yeah. It is of course that we don't so that we don't figure it out yet, even though they tell us the whole plot literally in the next scene. But still, so I understand that.
Well, that's supposed to be the aha moment, I suppose.
Oh, of course. But it's the first time I what in this movie.
Yeah.
And I haven't noticed it before, but this time I was like, that doesn't really make sense. But still. That's the only scene in the movie. The rest, chef's kiss, perfectly directed, edited, and acted, and written. It is just, so goddamn good.
And you have all these amazing actors. A lot of them were in Shaun of the Dead as well. Or if they weren't, they show up in World's End.
So we have Simon Pegg, we have Nick Frost, Rafe Spall. Who else was in Shaun of the Dead?
Freeman.
Oh, right. Yes. Oh, sure. Yeah. Because this time he has more lines.
Yes. Not a lot, but a bit more.
He's in one scene.
Isn't Bill...
All right, Bill Nighy, who plays the stepfather in Shaun of the Dead, plays the chief inspector in this one.
Small one, but still.
Yeah.
Wait, I have to have all cast and crew, but I know there's a few more. We did mention one of the Andes.
Rafe Spall. Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure, but I think there's a few more.
They
might have been background characters in Shaun of the Dead, or not even have names, just be random people in the background. I'm not sure, but I think one of the old, because there's two very old people in Hot Fuzz that we can't really understand.
Oh,
one of them's what's his name?
Oh, one of them plays the groundskeeper in Harry Potter.
Jim Broadbent.
Oh, Jim Broadbent is not in Shaun of the Dead.
No, but the other one, what's his name? Yeah, that's the other one is the guy from Harry Potter.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
Doesn't one of those play the homeless guy in Shaun of the Dead?
Nope.
No? Okay, it
No.
just looks a lot like that, I
The homeless
suppose.
guy is a young guy in Shaun of the Dead.
There's one who's like old and gray and chases pigeons.
Oh no, that's just a random guy. That's not them. No.
Okay.
But
never mind then.
Yeah, but what's more interesting in Hot Fuzz is that now they have like a bunch of older, like famous British actors, people that might not even I don't know. We might not know, but yeah, that we might not know of, but like in Britain, they're famous. Like classic British actors, like Jim Broadbent. Yeah. We do have one. I think I might be wrong, but I think the woman who owns the small shop where they buy the Cornetto and Hot Fuzz, that might be the lady in the bar, the coccidal maniac, who was in the first international porno movie.
Ooh.
I'm not sure if that's her, but that might be her. Who says, "No luck catching them swans then," or "No luck catching them killers then."
Oh yeah, just the one actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
You know what I just found? And I've never thought of this before. You have a bunch of uncredited actors in Hot Fuzz.
Oh, yes.
First off, on that, because they're in alphabetically ordered, you have Cate Blanchett.
Yes, Cate Blanchett, who plays
Janine,
his girlfriend, who is completely covered up in a hazmat suit, because she works with the crime scene investigation team, or the crime scene team. You have, of course, Peter Jackson.
Coogan as well.
Huh?
Steve Coogan.
Oh yeah, but he's the other police guy who next to Martin Freeman. Yeah.
Yeah, but I just never connected that it's him for some reason. Well, and then yes, like you said, Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson plays like a mall Santa who stabs Simon Pegg in the
I think you only see like his shoulder and hand though.
Yeah, you see his face, but it's covered, of course, of a big beard. You have who else do you have?
I mean, Edgar Wright's in it, but
yeah,
that doesn't surprise me that much.
It's literally a blink and you'll miss it, and you don't even see his face. You see him in profile. He's pushing like a cart in the shopping mall or the grocery store.
Yeah.
But you have, if you want to talk like older familiar faces, you have Judah Deakin, who plays the wife to the bar owner. Mary is her name.
Yes, I mean she's credited at least.
Yeah, of course. But she plays Marsha in Spaced, the landlady.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Who else? You have what's his name?
You have my favorite from Black Books, Bill Bailey.
Bill Bailey, who plays two brothers
Turner.
Or twins. Yeah.
Both of them are Sergeant Turner, though. So I mean.
Well, yeah, they have the same last name because they're brothers. Twins.
So he's only credited once as one name, which is weird.
Sure, but
because it takes a few times to like realize, wait, that's a different person. It's not the same guy.
No, yeah, we don't get that until the very end where you see them both in the same shot. Because one of them is very clean cut and nice, the other one's very rude and looks like he looks very haggard.
Never slept.
Yeah, and that's a joke. Like when he sees him in the morning, he thinks, oh, he's had a bad night, but no, it's just the other brother.
Yeah, the guy who works night shifts are the ones who's clean and happy.
Yeah, but then you also have, where is his name? Joe Cornish.
Oh yes,
I'm pretty sure Joe Cornish is in the movie, and he, of course, he has worked. He's I think it's Joe Cornish.
Yeah, he plays Bob.
Yeah, he has worked on some other very good British movies. One of them being Attack the Block.
Oh yes.
Which I think he both directed and wrote.
He wrote it definitely.
Yeah, he directed, wrote it, and produced it.
Yeah, and he is involved in Attack the Block 2, which is in pre-production.
Oh, still. I didn't even know about that.
I think we've mentioned it before.
Oh, he's actually in Shaun of the Dead as well. He plays one of the zombies in the end who gets shot by Jason. And he made The King Who Would Be King, The Kid Who Would Be King, which was kind of an overlooked movie, which I really liked from 2019.
Can't say I've seen it, to be honest.
No, yeah, nobody saw it, but
No one saw it.
No, unfortunately, because it's a pretty fun kids movie.
Ashbourne Circus. Is that Andy Serkis's son?
Who?
Is that just coincidence? The main actor in The Kid Who Would Be King.
I don't know, actually. I haven't looked into that.
His name is Louis Ashbourne Circus. It's just maybe a funny coincidence, I suppose.
I actually don't know.
Yeah, never mind. That's not the point.
Yeah, but then we also have, I think Stephen Moffat is also in the movie. I'm not sure where he would be, but I think he's in the movie, and he has also worked. He's worked a lot on Doctor Who. I might be wrong about that. You shouldn't quote me on that, but I think he's in Hot Fuzz for like 1 second. Then of course the man who tends to the castle and calls in about the swan is Stephen Merchant. Part of the comedic duo Stephen Merchant and Ricky Gervais. Also had his own TV show Hello Ladies on HBO. Pretty funny. He plays Peter Ian Staker. Piss Taker.
A character called Stephen Merchant as well?
There is? I mean,
there's a merchant at least.
Oh, there is. Yeah, there is a merchant. Yeah, that's another thing. All the main characters, or all the main like bad guys, have last names that are also like a profession, like Treacher, Staker, Merchant, Dyer. I don't remember who else. Paver. Yeah.
Shooter.
Yeah. Reverend Shooter. All the names are most of the names are. Roy Porter, who's the bartender.
Yeah, Skinner.
Yeah, they're all names of professions. Why he chose that, I don't know. But
I think it's just funny. No, it's George Merchant is the character. It's played by Ron Cook. It's just Merchant. It just stuck with me.
Yeah. But actually, oh shit, I forgot his name. Stephen Merchant plays the groundskeeper at the castle.
Yeah.
He's the one who has to describe the swan to Nicholas Angel.
You know what the swan is called? The real swan's name?
No.
It's Elvis.
Oh.
The swan is listed is credited as an actor.
And how would you
Elvis?
How would you describe the swan? Well, it's white, has a long slender neck, black and orange bill. Anything else? Well, it's a swan.
The swan actually has a second acting job.
Really?
It was in it was as itself in a TV movie called Born Equal.
Okay.
And then it's uncredited in the Bad Education movie.
Uncredited work even. Okay. That's good for Elvis, I suppose.
That's the funniest thing I've ever heard, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, there are famous animal actors.
Sure, but a swan? Is it trained? Does
Probably.
it know commandos?
Probably. I think birds are smart enough to be trained.
Sure.
Maybe not all birds
swans
are, but still, yeah. I don't know.
Oh, whatever.
Anyway, yeah.
Funny.
Then, the big thing though in the movie is that it's not just like an homage to action movies. There are there are specific homages to Bad Boys 2 and Point Break, which they do point out in the movie. But there's other things. There's car chases and there's a lot of slow motion, very very reminiscent of John Woo movies. But then they also add something that is very very specifically British. Once again, because it's a very British movie, you have the strange cult-like community in rural Britain. One of the most famous ones, of course, the Wicker Man, the original Wicker Man, not the remake.
Yes.
It's a thing in British cinema. Cults are a thing in British cinema.
I think it's because they do have councils, and all the councils seem very culty in general. Because it's always been the same people. It's always the same families who's leading it and who's involved. And they decide things even though people might not be happy with it.
It becomes, even though they're not family, it becomes very incestuous almost.
Yeah.
And you have like I said, classic classic from the 70s is Wicker Man. But even in later cinema, one of my favorite horror movies, Kill List, is about a cult.
All right.
Which we don't find out until like the last 10 minutes, but that a cult has been working behind the scenes. But whatever. You have I think there's a British Netflix movie called The Ritual, which I think involves a cult.
I believe so. I haven't seen it, actually.
No, but then there is one that came out just a couple of years ago, I think, called Apostle, by the guy who made the Raid movies. He made a horror movie about a cult on a secluded island off the coast of England. It's a thing in British cinema, so it's very British to have a cult leading this town and killing people.
Yeah.
Which that's like the biggest reference, not to a specific movie, but to like a British type of movie, which I find very amusing.
Yeah.
But I don't really have much more to say about.
Oh, I was about to say, speaking of cults, you have something that seems like a cult in World's End.
Yes, let's talk about World's End.
Which, again, is Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg.
Yes, written and then directed by Edgar Wright, starring Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and a bunch of people. Yeah, from the other movies. You have Martin Freeman, this time in a starring role, because now he's famous, because now he has been not only on British TV, he has been in The Hobbit, so they gave him a starring role this time.
Yeah. You have David Bradley, who was in Hot Fuzz as the farmer who can't speak English.
Oh yeah, he has a small role. You have, of course,
he's high up credited though.
Yeah, I think that's because of the alphabet. But what the other Andy from the Andy Cartwright?
Yes.
What's his name?
Wait.
Damn it! I forget his name. That's annoying.
Find him. I don't actually know it by heart.
He has become a very famous actor.
Paddy
Considine, yeah, right.
Considine, that's how you
Paddy
say it,
Considine plays another lead role. Oh, we forgot to mention Olivia Coleman in Hot Fuzz. She plays PC Doris Thatcher.
Oh yeah, that's true.
The only policewoman that they have.
Yeah.
Which is kind of funny because at that point she was mostly known for British TV, and she has definitely blown up in the last few years. But if you're an Edgar Wright fan, you know her, all the way back in 2007. So that's fun. Anyway,
again, you have Rafe Spall.
Rafe Spall in a very small role, like we said. Only 2 scenes, but still. But then you have from Spaced, you have what's his name? Michael Smiley plays the Reverend Green, and he played Tires in Spaced. One of the funnier characters. He's like a bike messenger who likes to take acid and go to raves.
Yeah.
You have once again Bill Nighy playing just a voice role in this one. Then you have some new people. You have we forgot Judah Deakin once again shows up in the movie. You also have Brian from Spaced. I forget his name.
I was about to say that because I was like, isn't that guy Mark Heap?
Yes. He plays.
And he was also in. Oh Jesus, my camera just freaked out. He was also in one of the other ones, wasn't he?
I don't think he is. He's in Spaced, but I don't think he's in the other movies. He might be a zombie somewhere in Shaun or something.
Yeah,
like that,
I think he's a zombie.
That might be it. Yeah, but there's so many.
Never mind.
Yeah, then we have, of course. What's her name? The girl.
Rosamund Pike.
Rosamund Pike. Thank you.
Well, she's a new one. She's not been in the other ones,
she's new. But this was once again just before she blew up. The year after she blew up with, of course, with Gone Girl.
Yes,
but she was mainly known, in British stuff before that. I of course knew her from James Bond. She was in Die Another Day. Yeah. 11 years before.
We also have Pierce Brosnan.
Speaking of James Bond, yeah.
Yes.
And there are so many actors in this one, like British actors.
Yes. I mean,
more than I can.
Also, because the main characters have younger alter egos, so you have like kids that I've never seen before, but I'm guessing they're gonna become more known if you're English.
Well, at this point, they should have careers in that case, because it's 8 years since they did this movie.
That's true.
Yeah. But, speaking of the plot, or speaking of the movie in general, this one, even though it's really well made, it is the one I like the least.
Yes.
For some specific reasons. The first one being that the biggest twist in all of these movies is the twist of what is actually going on in the little town they're in the World's End. When this movie was first announced, it was said to be a drama comedy about growing up and leaving the past behind you. I was like, oh, so that's a very fitting end to a movie about, slackers and growing up. And it was about like late 30-something friends coming back to their hometown to do a pub crawl, and them dealing with their past, basically. And I was like, that's very mature. That's a fun way to end the movie. And that was all they said about it, like a year or two before it came out, or like a year and a half, whatever. But then the trailers came out, and in the trailers, they spoiled the fact that the town has been invaded by aliens.
I mean, they kind of spoil it on the poster, to be honest.
Yeah, well, by that point, the trailer was already out, so...
Yeah.
And it's just like, imagine... Because in the movie, there are, of course, hints, just like like Shaun of the Dead, just with Hot Fuzz. They hint at the horror element, or in this case, the sci-fi element. But imagine watching that movie without knowing that there's an alien invasion going on. And when you first find that out, there would have been like a, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And I thought that was what they were doing because they only talked about the pub crawl and the people, dealing with their past. And then the trailer just, now here are robots, aliens, blue goo. It's just like, oh.
Well, I can kind of see why they wanted to spoil that a little bit. They did it too much, because it's kind of hard to sell a movie just being, because if you specifically when you include it in with Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz and just saying, oh, it's a more or less drama where they come to terms with who they are and grow up in life.
Yeah, but
they're like, sorry, what?
But
are you sure it's the same people who made Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead?
Well, you could sell it as they're going to have a crazy night out on the town, and just saying, from the guys who brought you Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead. And people were like, yay, would have gone to see it. And people were like, so what's the horror thing here? Are there zombies? Are there murders? Are there maybe aliens? And then they're like, aha! But now it's just like, let's just tell them. And it loses a lot of its, like, charm because of that, I think. That's not the movie's fault. That's people who cut the trailers. But
yes,
still.
I'm saying it's marketing probably. And also, that might be because the production company was a bit scared that it might not be as interesting if they didn't mention that part. Because it did come out 6 years after Hot Fuzz.
Yes, they waited a long time. That's because he had some other projects that kind of fell through.
But I'm guessing, like, maybe production, the producers were like, we need to really make sure we sell this one somehow. Let's mention the alien robots.
Yeah. But still.
It's a shame. I agree.
Yeah.
I do, however, think that's not the only reason it's the worst movie.
No, there are more, and this is the one. I can't call it a perfect movie. Once again, you have very meticulous directing.
Definitely.
Very good writing, not meticulous writing. But if there's anything that's still, like, perfect, it's the dialogue. The dialogue is amazing.
Oh, yes. For me, it's actually the plot in general that's kind of...
The plot is the problem. Because it is a movie about 5 friends who, on the last day of high school, went out on a pub crawl.
Golden Mile.
They call it the Golden Mile, where you're going to go to 12 different pubs. It's supposed to be in 12 hours, but they just go whenever they feel like it. During a night. And they're going to celebrate, the beginning of their lives now that high school is over, or whatever they call it in Britain.
England.
School, basically. Yeah. But, they of course, they fail. People start falling off. Because it's... Yeah, and you don't think, like, 12 beers, that's a lot. But it's over 12 hours. Have you tried doing a golden mile in a pub crawl?
I've done a pub crawl.
It's hard. You don't think it's gonna be, but it's hard. I've done a
Yes.
golden mile here in Sweden. 12
You want to know
different pubs in 12 hours.
the funny thing about my pub crawl?
Yeah.
It ended at the pub called World's End.
Oh yeah. I've been to that one with you. Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool. Not the World's End, but a
No, but
World's
a
End.
World's
Yeah.
End.
Yeah.
Because there are multiple pubs called the same thing
Of
all over
course.
Britain.
Yeah.
The one I went to was in London.
Yeah, it's Camden, right?
Camden, yeah.
That's the one we went to. So yeah.
Yes.
Anyway. Yeah.
But yeah, a pub crawl is kind of brutal, specifically since I think they're about 16 when they do it.
16,
first
17, yeah.
And they're just literally having one beer and then moving on, one beer and then moving on.
Yeah.
There's no food in between. There's no
No.
resting. They just
Yeah.
keep chugging.
But that's
of course
that's,
you're gonna pass out.
Yeah, and yeah. So you have Simon Pegg in the movie called Gary King, and he was kind of the leader of the pack back then, and
he was the cool guy.
He was the cool guy, and he's the one who was retelling the story. Turns out we find out then that he's retelling the story in a home for addicts. He's living at a what do you call it? Not a home.
I don't know if he lives there, but he's at AA basically.
Yeah. But I mean, he has a room there. You see, he has like a little room. He doesn't live in a flat or anything. But he decides, because they never made it to the World's End, the final pub, he decides now, 20 years later, he's gonna call up his old friends that he hasn't met in almost 20 years. And they're gonna do the pub crawl all over again. And the big thing is because he's stuck in the past. That night was the greatest night of his life, and his life has pretty much been shit after that. While his other friends have all moved on. They have real jobs, they have families, they're grown up. Yeah. But because he is very charming but also very manipulative, he managed to get them all to follow him back to whatever the town is called. Eden, something
Shire. I don't know.
I don't remember. Whatever, some British village. And they decided. Well, he decided that they're going to do the pub crawl again. They're going to get to the World's End this time. But as they're doing their pub crawl, they realize that not everything is right in the town. And it's actually been taken over by alien robots.
Yeah, because people are acting weird
but that's where the problem comes in.
Yeah.
Because there are no subtle hints before we see the first robot. There are hints if you've seen the movie before, but there are no hints if this is the first time you see it. You have no idea that there's something weird going on.
I mean, they point out one big change when they get to town. That's the big statue.
Yeah, but that's also
that could just be random statue, and they just call it modern art. So
yeah, and they point out how everything is becoming gentrified. All the pubs are now owned by one chain, so they all look the same, and
they call it something Starbucks.
Yeah, they've Starbucksed the
pubs.
The countryside. Yeah, the pub. Yeah. And pointing out that they're not putting modern art in a rural village. Who cares about modern art out there and stuff like that. But that's more a hint in general at what the movie is about. Like cherishing the past, but still moving on, which is a big part of the movie. To err is human. The humanity, one of the core tenets of humanity is flaws.
Yeah. They say even in the movie, they say to err is human.
To err is human, yeah, in the very end, yeah. But there are no hints that you can discern if you haven't seen the movie before that there are going to be aliens in the movie. Nothing. And when we do find out, the first hint is literally Gary murdering a teenager in a pub bathroom.
Yeah. Turns out he didn't murder a teenager, he just popped the head off a robot.
Yeah, but still, he was so angry that he would have murdered a person And this is supposed to be our hero.
Yeah.
It's lucky it was a robot.
Yeah, I mean, the person might have not have died, but it would have been a very bad injury.
Oh, he would have hurt himself because he smashes his head against a urinal.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Hard
That's
enough that the urinal breaks.
Right.
So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, our protagonist is now a basically a murderer. Even though, you know, he killed an alien, but still, he was prepared to murder a teenager, which is weird.
For nothing,
for ignoring him.
Yeah.
Ignoring him, and he's pissed at his friends. So he wants to, like, talk to this guy. So he wants to kill him for that, which is weird. I mean, he do fights. He start fighting, and he, you know, it's a heat of the moment thing. But still, you know, he specifically does a rock bottom, which The Rock does when he was a wrestler. And because Gary King has hit rock bottom, he does the rock bottom move. Whatever. Whatever. Yeah. And after that, all his friends come into the bathroom because they find out that he's been lying about his mom being dead.
Oh, yes.
And they all realize, oh, shit. This guy's head popped off like a Ken doll, and there's blue goo everywhere. And then more teenagers come in, and they just start fighting. Second problem, these are regular people. Sure, Nick Frost's character used to play rugby in school.
Yeah.
And they used to get in fights when they were teenagers. But the fight scenes are like super well choreographed. It doesn't look, I don't know, I've never been involved in a drunken brawl, but I've seen them in pubs. People aren't like coordinated. It's not like a movie fight. But I guess this is a movie, so whatever.
Sure.
But that's another weird detail. And then when they all kill the alien robots, and they're like, what the hell is going on? Why are these, like, why are there robots here? What is happening? And that they sit down and like try to quietly discuss it because they don't know who else might be robots. You know, they figure that out pretty quickly. That's fine. But then their logic is this is at the 5th pub, I think.
I think
5 out of 12, yeah. Then their logic is not to, let's just quietly go back to the car and drive home. No, their logic is that we should keep doing the pub crawl because we don't want to deviate from our pattern, because then they might recognize us.
They've told people that they're going to do the Golden Mile, so if those people were those robot thingies, then they will get suspicious if they just stop and leave.
Yeah, but just like they failed back in 1990... They could just say, "Oh man, we're getting too old for this. We're going back to the hotel," and then just walk to the car.
No, what's even more stupid?
No,
they are giving off a big sign as soon as they fought the first robot because they're covered in blue.
Blue, yeah.
Everyone knows it by then. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That they would have continued or gone home.
Yeah.
Everyone knows because you're covered in blue goo.
And the further the movie goes along, they get drunker and drunker, and at some points in the movie, it feels like they're just, you know what, whatever, it's an alien invasion, but we're having fun, right? I was like, wait a minute, there are robots trying to kill you. Well, they're trying to convert you, but they don't know that at that point.
No, they just know they're being creepy.
Yeah, and there is this clash between, well, Gary wants to finish the pub crawl, and we also want to kind of act normal. But then there's this, you know, them trying to figure out what's going on, but only sometimes.
Yeah.
And then towards the end, when 2 of their friends have been killed, well, converted. Taken, yeah. Gary still, like, desperately, like, wants to finish the pub crawl.
Yeah, but that's because he doesn't really care about the other ones. He only cares about him actually fulfilling one of his own goals in life.
Yeah, but...
He's a bad person. We know that.
Oh, sure. But it's at the risk of his own life. I mean, he's literally running from a mob of aliens, from pub to pub.
Yep.
And at one point, when he's at the 11th pub, instead of like running through the door, he dives out of a window. Like who does that? That's another thing. Like the violence is so unrealistic. Yeah, first of all, they can all fight like they're like martial arts stars.
Yeah.
And then he just dives through a closed window. He crashes through the window. Like, it's nothing. Like, usually that cuts you up.
Yeah, he doesn't have a scratch.
He doesn't have a scratch on him. No. He has the mark in his forehead, but that's from bashing his head towards
exactly.
the wooden beam at the golf club.
Yeah, when he's trying to prove that he's not a robot.
A robot, yeah. Why did he just dive through a window? I mean, even in Hot Fuzz, which is supposed to be an action movie, when he's jumping through a window, he crashes the window first by throwing his baton at it.
Yeah.
When he's going in where they killed the horticulturalist with the shears.
Yeah.
Those things, and I mean, when they get to the 12th pub, they have this big, well-written, and really, like, tough conversation about, like, giving up on or, like, moving on. Like, he can't move on. He needs to have that last beer. And Nick Frost's character, Andy? Yeah, Andy. Because it's Danny and then Andy in the next movie, yeah. Like, you need to let that go. But he's like, oh, it's all I have left. All that is... It is such a, like, heartbreaking scene between them. But it's all rushed because they have a mob of aliens about to come in through the door. It is so strange. It doesn't fit at all together. I mean, it works. No. But it's not at all as well put together like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. See, and it always bothered me.
Yeah, that's what bothered me too, because it doesn't feel like it's... I mean, Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, you can kind of see the connection, why it's part of the Cornetto trilogy. I mean, you even have the literal buying a Cornetto in both of those. World's End doesn't even have that tiny detail.
No, they do throw in a Cornetto wrapper, but it feels like an afterthought.
Yeah, that's like, oh shit, we have to mention Cornetto.
Yeah.
You didn't even add that tiny detail. That could have been something they did while they were at the pub crawl. One of them could have been like, oh, let's pop into shops and buy a Cornetto, whatever.
Yeah, and the whole thing, like, their explanation for why they can't leave is ridiculous. Like, oh, they might find out. Like, so? Just drive away. No one's going to stop you from getting to the car. Yeah. And in the other movies, there's always a reason for them for staying. Like in Shaun of the Dead, it's what they think is the safest place to be because they can hole up in the bar, and it has a rifle,
and deadbolts on the doors, and they know all the exits and all that.
Exactly. And in Shaun of the Dead, in Hot Fuzz, it is literally their job to figure out who the murderers are because they're police officers. Here, when the shit hits the fan, policeman officer. Yeah. Why don't they just leave? I mean, at one point they say, "Oh, we can't leave," but at one point, Gary tells Rosamund Pike's character,
Sam.
Yeah, Martin Freeman's what's his
sister in this one.
Yeah, man.
Oliver.
Oliver. Something.
Oliver Chamberlain.
Yeah.
And Sam Chamberlain.
They get to like, oh shit! Oh, I parked my car here. So they jump down. She gets into the car, and Gary just says, "Go! I'll take care of the other." Like,
I'll get the other ones. Yeah.
They could have just left then, like, because no one stops her. She comes back later in the movie. Because of course I couldn't leave you guys, and then like, oh, because also I got lost in the ringway, whatever they call.
Yeah.
It's a joke that the roads are like a maze.
Also, I mean, you have Martin Freeman's character talking on the phone with her. Oh, you're just lost on the ringway.
Yeah. But I mean, there was no aliens stopping her. There was no like roadblocks or anything. So they could just have left. The only reason they stay is because the story needs it.
Yeah.
That's not...
It's some sort of, like, analogy for addiction or something?
Yeah, of course, that's what it is. It's about, Gary, you can't let go of the past. I mean, there's one thing to, like, have reverence for the past and, like, enjoying, things from your past, but he is stuck in it. He has the same clothes as that day in 1990. He has the black coat.
Car.
It's the same car. He has the same cassette tape that Paddy Considine gave him in 1990 or 87 or whatever. Yeah. He is firmly stuck because he has not been able to move on because of his addictive personality. That was the best day of his life, and everything was just downhill from there. So he's clinging to that memory. and that works. But that's almost also why I'm saying the alien invasion plot kind of gets in the way of that, like, coming of age, letting go of the past plot.
Yeah, because it doesn't even feel like it's forcing him to become an adult. It's just...
Yeah, that's the other thing.
It's just letting him do what he wants to do still.
Yeah, because in the end, it is his flawed personality, and at that point, Andy, who has then started drinking again, even though he has been sober for like 18 years or something, because of Gary. He was in a car crash driving him to the hospital because he was dying from an overdose.
Well, he thought he was dying from an overdose.
Yeah. But then
he didn't.
They crashed. Gary woke up, ran away while Andy was just lying there dying, and then being arrested after extensive surgery.
12 hours, to be specific.
Yeah, and you have all that, which would have been so interesting if they could actually take the time to explore that and explore Gary's addiction and Gary's his personality. But they're literally, towards the end, they're running between the pubs to be able to get through all the pubs. It's like they realize, like, oh shit, the movie's almost over. Oh, he runs away to the next pub.
Yeah.
And then what saves them, not even really saves them, what stops them from becoming blanks or robots, like, they call them blanks, because they're all copies of people who already lived in the town, is the fact that they refuse to conform. They want to be, like he says, we want to have a good time. We want to be free, which is an ongoing reference in the movie, which is from a song, where that song also sampled the movie where they say that. We want to be free. We want to be loaded. We want to have a good time. And the aliens are just like, oh, whatever. You don't fit into our great plan, so we're just gonna leave you.
Bye.
But in leaving Earth, they also destroy all technology. They like blow up the electrical grid.
They've introduced all the technology
from the 90s and forward. So
no, most of it.
No, it's literally.
Oh no, that's true.
There is the shooting star in the beginning of the movie. When you watch it again, you're like, the aliens literally land on that day, the 4th of June, I think, 1990.
Something like that.
So,
yeah, that's true.
So the movie ends with them, escaping conformity, but that also leaves the planet in an apocalyptic scenario where there is no technology, no electricity. It's Fallout, basically.
Yeah.
Even Fallout, the video game's Fallout.
Yes.
Not Fallout.
Yeah.
Fallout.
And the blanks come back to life, and you have robots versus humans, sort of.
Yeah, but the robots are like, they just want to live their lives.
They're literally blank, though. They don't have.
Yeah.
No one controlling them, so they're just randos.
Yeah. And then the movie ends in this weird post-apocalyptic setting where it's supposed to be this like back to basics thing, and everyone's actually happy.
Yeah.
Because they're not stuck in what they what they thought were their perfect lives, but not really perfect, which is another thing. Like, Gary is kind of jealous that everyone was able to move on and he wasn't. But then when he he fights with Andy while they're talking.
Yeah.
They don't just sit down to have a conversation. They're literally punching each other and jumping through windows while they're having this conversation, which is weird. Like, oh, you think my life is so perfect. My wife has left me. All I have is my work. I can't drink, blah, blah, blah. So that's also the thing. Like, maybe the way Gary lives his life isn't the perfect way to do it, but also just completely forgetting about your past is not going to be good for you either.
It's about trying to find a happy medium, but this movie doesn't really. I mean, it obviously explains it eventually, but it's not.
It's confused in what the message is. It's let go of your past, but also don't conform and grow up too much. And also technology bad. Well, I guess that's the only thing. Technology is bad. So now we're gonna
Let's become farmers.
yeah, let's destroy all technology. But then we do see Nick Frost pining for processed food as he talks that, oh, I don't really miss processed food. But then you see the Cornetto rapper and he's like, so
yeah,
I don't know.
I don't really know.
I don't really know what. It's a shame.
Trilogy on that one, to be honest.
What is interesting though is even though it has all these faults, I still thoroughly enjoy the movie.
Well, yeah,
because of the meticulous, once again, meticulous directing. And I can't say writing, but dialogue writing. The acting, if anything, even better now. Simon Pegg has grown so much as an actor since Shaun of the Dead. It's insane. But Nick Frost as well, and the other ones were already established.
All of them,
actors,
obviously,
so,
yes.
You know. It is just that the plot just don't work.
No, it doesn't.
But it got really good reviews though. It's got an 81 on Metacritic. And I think Hot Fuzz is the highest one, like 86.
No, Hot Fuzz got 81 as well.
81 as well. Okay.
And Shaun of the Dead has
that was like a 76 or something.
76, yeah.
Yeah. And I would say that this is the worst of the three.
I agree.
By no means a bad movie.
The IMDb ratings agree as well, because you got Shaun of the Dead at 7.9, Hot Fuzz 7.8, and World's End at 7.
Yeah, and that if anything, it shows just how good of a writer and director Edgar Wright is.
Oh yes.
That even the worst movie in his trilogy that has a really fundamental flaw, like the plot is flawed, it's still a great movie. Like, one of the better movies of 2013. It's insane.
Weird.
And that's why, and then that kind of continues in his other movies. You've seen Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah, like once or twice ages ago, it feels like.
I've only seen it once, but I gotta say, tears. First time, or the only time I saw it. Oh my god.
I will have to rewatch it if we're gonna discuss it more, to be honest.
That's what I was gonna say though. This is why I am so excited for Last Night in Soho, because so far he has never made a bad movie. Even though I think he does his best work when he writes with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost is involved, because he's always involved.
Yeah.
His solo stuff, so to speak, is not as good. Baby Driver, great movie, not as good as the Cornetto trilogy. Same thing with Scott Pilgrim.
See, to be honest, I've never realized that he is the same guy that made Baby Driver
really?
and Scott Pilgrim. First of all, I didn't realize that Baby Driver and Scott Pilgrim were made by the same guy.
Okay.
But definitely not the same guy that made the Cornetto trilogy.
I gotta say, I would have never watched Baby Driver if it wasn't Edgar Wright who made it, because it sounds like a silly idea. I was like, I'm not gonna watch that shit. But then it's like, oh wait, Edgar Wright made it? And yeah. So it's the same thing with Last Night in Soho. And not the same thing, because that sounds like an interesting premise. And it's made even more interesting by the fact that Edgar Wright has made it.
Well, I didn't realize it was him as well until basically before this.
Oh, okay.
I was like, of course we're gonna watch this. It seems like an amazing movie.
Yeah.
And then you're like, but we have to do these episodes beforehand. Oh, really?
Really? Okay. It is his lowest scored, though, I think. It has a 65 Metascore. Baby Driver has...
in Soho.
Yeah. And Baby Driver has an 86. So that's his highest
a lot of
scored
people
movie.
like that one very much.
It is a great movie, but we'll talk more about that on Monday. But that is a movie where his meticulous directing isn't applied to every scene. That's like a regular movie where some scenes are very meticulously directed, but some scenes are just whatever. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that on Monday.
Yes, we'll get to that on Monday. But this was our Cornetto trilogy discussion. If you haven't watched these movies, sorry if we spoiled them.
You should have seen them by now.
And even if we have spoiled them, you gotta watch them. They're infinitely rewatchable, especially the first two.
Yes.
So please check that out. And then of course, if you want to hear us talk about Baby Driver and Scott Pilgrim, and I guess a little bit about Spaced.
Yeah, we'll try to squeeze that in.
We're going to talk about that on Patreon this Monday. It's only $3 a month to get one extra episode every week. Commentary tracks every month. We release a commentary track. We haven't, but we're going to. In October we released 6, so
yes,
making up for missed months. There's also early access to my other podcast, Madison the Method. There's early access to videos whenever I make those anymore. Much stuff for just a Starbucks coffee.
The early episode of Last Night in Soho. Exactly. You're lucky.
But other than that, it's at the spoilerCast on Twitter and on Instagram.
Yes.
So check us out there. Thank you so much for listening.
You'll find all the socials and links and everywhere.
Of course, there are links down below if you're watching this on YouTube. There are also links, even if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever. There are links everywhere.
Yes.
So once again, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you at least on Thursday, right? But until then, have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.